Hello and welcome to the Incursion Podcast, your weekly indie games podcast where we bring you all the news you might want to know about indie games, a sweet little bit about all the indie games coming out in the given week of recording. The only thing that's weird about that is generally a lot of them games have already come out by the time that you guys will actually listen to this. So it's kind of just like, hey, let's add to my backlog now. And we delve into Kickstarter for basically to just mock Kickstarter stuff, I guess. I mean,
one day we gotta stop.
Yeah,
putting that tagline.
we have the guise of wanting to let everybody know that there's some amazing games on Kickstarter, but really, it's just to shit on them. No big deal.
I mean, let's just say that that's for you to shit on. I'm generally the positive one with these games.
That's fair. You're generally the one that hates on them the least. A little bit of an introduction. I am the ghost formerly known as Von Hyde. I am one of your hosts, and as always, I'm actually joined by Josh. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty fantastic. I got a sweet little Mountain Dew next to me because I do the do, you know what I mean? And I just ate a women's granola bar and a massive amount of garlic bread. So right before we started recording the podcast, Josh was talking about his athletic prowess, and I was like, I'm a fat kid, and that just proves it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm only drinking water, and I had a trail mix, just mixed nuts, so definitely a different appetite, so to speak.
You're a turd.
Yeah, but a healthy turd. It's different.
I mean, you got me there. That's super fair.
Yeah. No, go ahead. We'll just go through the transition. We'll go through the transition.
Dude, I'm so good at transitioning between stuff that we might as well just hop right into it. What have you been playing this week? And it doesn't have to be indie game related. I feel like I actually, even though this is an indie game podcast, you don't have to censor yourself on what you've been playing. If you're playing some AAAs, let's talk about it. Okay?
All right. Well, to be honest,
unless you're playing Fortnite, I don't give a shit.
Oh, that's all I've been playing. No, I actually don't play it. I have been really dedicating a lot of my time to Kingdom Hearts, just because I am slated to do the review for Parallax Media.
Is your heart your guiding key?
My heart is half in this game and half not. Dude, okay, so this game, it's like,
I'm excited for this review now.
I know, yeah. Well, I mean, it's still a good game. Like, don't get me wrong. This is still, if you enjoy the Kingdom Hearts template, so to speak, it's good. It doesn't really go much out of the way. They've added new elements, but it still plays very much like the same Kingdom Hearts 2. Like, it's really not that different. They've added a lot of things, but it doesn't change the game, and it's almost to the point where they've put so many things in. There's so many layers and so many complex little intricate things that are everywhere that it's almost to the point where I'm like, ugh, this is just too much. There's so much going on. There's so many things to do, and it's all at once that I really just end up kind of just not caring. Like, I'll give you an example in combat. So with combat, you have, normally in Kingdom Hearts games, it was like, oh, well, you'll have, your regular attacking, you'll have your magic, and then you'll have your Link combos, like these little, random Disney characters that didn't get a full world, but you get, a little thing from them, like Lilo and Stitch. You had one where Stitch would come out and he would do some special attack.
What about Treasure Planet? Is there a link for Treasure Planet?
No, there's never been a Treasure Planet anything, and there probably never will be. So
fuck
you just
Disney.
Get to be disappointed.
This game series is horse shit. We're going on the record. This game series sucks ass. Change it.
I mean, anyway, so yeah, sure. So we'll go with that. So okay. That's the main point that's always been in there, and they stuck with that. There's still that, but now there's this random thing where you can hold a button and you'll charge enemies and shoot them with this gauge form that you have. And then there's also every 5 seconds you get these random enemies who will have a green circle around them, and if you hit them, you get to do a combo move where it basically emulates a random Disney ride, and you get to use an attack that's a Disney ride. So like,
I was actually just about to ask about that. Dude, I've heard that you can summon attractions.
It's the weirdest fucking thing. And at first, it's like really like mind blowing. You're like, what the fuck? This is so cool. And then you're like, okay, this keeps fucking happening, and I just want to get it like away from me. Because the way it works is like anytime you get one of those combos, it stacks up on your list of things that you can use with the triangle button. And so if you get another combo, you literally have to use that one that was already there to get rid of it so you could get to the next one that I actually want. So every time I get the random fucking like water ride or the pirate ship where you like ride a Disney ride and attack things, and I'm like, I don't want to do this because it just takes time and it's annoying. I just want to fight things. I have to go through it, skip the sequence, and cancel the attack, and then go into what I wanted to do. Like it's very annoying that I can't choose and actually pick what I have to do. And it's so easy to hit anything in the game that it's like you're always going to get that green circle. So it's like always coming up. It's just, there's just layers upon layers of all these intricate like little things that you can do in the gameplay, and it's almost to the point where like half of the time you don't even use them because there's just so much stuff going on that you just end up diverting back to just the regular attack magic. Or it's just like these combos coming up every 5 seconds that it's just like it's just so easy. Like I wish I would have gone on the harder mode, because the normal mode is just like I'm flying through it with like no problem at all. Like it's,
can you not change it halfway through, or are you not changing it specifically for like trophies or something?
No, I don't think there's a way to change it. I actually should check, because if I can, I definitely would. But I remember in the others, I don't believe you were able to change it halfway through. And I have no interest in restarting the whole game now that I'm like 20 hours in. So, and
you don't want to go through that 5-hour tutorial again?
Yeah, as much fun as it was, I think I'll hold off on that. But I don't know.
I've heard they like rickrolled the shit out of people, because when you finally get the title screen, it says Kingdom Hearts 2.9.
Yeah, you have to play like a little prologue, and it's not even like immediately into the game. You go through like a ton of like, here's what happened last time on Kingdom Hearts, and then you go through that, and finally when you're done with that, you go to start playing, and it's like 2.9, and you're like, well, god damn it. Like, I'm still not even at the real game.
Makes you do another tutorial. You're like, dude, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't even actually how the game works.
I know. And some of the, like, every world has its own little quirks, and they've added, like, their own thing, like, where it's like, in the Toy Story one, you get to ride in this giant mech suit, which is awesome. It's, like, a great addition to it. But then you have really shitty ones, like Rapunzel, like the Tangled one, where their main thing is like this little mini game that you do where you go into the city, and it's like a dance thing, and you dance with the people in the city, and it basically turns into you playing kind of a DDR game while dancing through the city. And it was like, it was the weirdest moment, because it was one of those things where I was like playing the game, everything was like fight, and then my friend comes over and he's like, oh, let me see what's going on in this Kingdom Hearts game, what's it all about? And it was like 30 minutes of cutscenes and that part, and that's like all he got to see, and he was like, wow, this isn't very enticing.
It's definitely not a game for streamers. They're just like, let's not do that.
It was a very bad representation, but that's kind of what the game is like. It's so many cutscenes, a weird quirk, and then random ass just like these combo battles. The only time that I really enjoy is usually with the giant boss fights, because those are more like not as many crazy combo specials. It's more about actually fighting things and finding the way to do it. And I do like a lot of like new additions that they've added to the game, like having the new keyblades. You can actually switch between them based on like what you want to use. So there's ones that are better for magic, ones that are better for strength. So if like I use my magic, I can quickly switch to one that's more strength, because I'm waiting for my MP to recharge and actually attack things with strength. And you can upgrade these keyblades now, so it's not like in the last games when you would get one from the earlier world and then it would be totally irrelevant at the end of the game, because it's like, oh, this is clearly dog shit in comparison to the last keyblade you get. So, I mean, there's definitely improvements to it, but it's still, it just feels like Kingdom Hearts 2.5, as dumb as that.
It's 2.9, dude.
I mean, it's 2.9. Yeah, I was like, I wanted to think of a better way to say it, because there's been so many 2-point Kingdom Hearts games, but like, it really is just like extra things added on to Kingdom Hearts 2. and it would be a great game if it was like back when it should have come out, like years ago. Like I think it would have been, you know, like a 9 or a 10 back then. Now, not so much. I don't know. And it's a little bit of me both being biased in that like this game should have come out earlier, but it's also me taking a step back and being like, this is an old game. Like it's an old game that's coming out now. And it's like from a AAA studio, it should have been. I just feel like
13 years ago.
Yeah. There's more expectations from a studio like Square Enix that's pushing that out. And
I mean,
I don't know. Go ahead.
The most common criticism I've heard of the game is that it feels like a PS2 game, but in the PS4 era. And it seems like you definitely share that sentiment.
Yeah,
which is
I do.
It's really off-putting, if anything.
Yeah, and like, don't get me wrong. That's why I said it's a good game. It is a good game. I've enjoyed my time playing it, but it's like there's like you think that in 13 years they would have finally thought of a way to fucking update their the scripts, like the actual like dialogue in this game. It's still as cringy and fucking just terrible as ever that it was in 1 and 2. And it's one of the things that you always gave Kingdom Hearts a pass. You're like, it's Disney, it's got cool combat, it's like something that no one else is really doing because it's such a weird crossover, but like the dialogue in it is just fucking stupid. It's either way too cheesy or it makes no goddamn sense. Like
let your heart be your guiding key. You're like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
Keys don't guide you anywhere.
Yeah.
And why do I open up a chest by hitting it with a giant key?
I mean,
well, how does that even make sense?
You basically just break the hinges. It makes total sense.
That's fucking horseshit. Sora's obviously the dumbest person ever. He's like, there's a key slot, I'm just gonna break the chest instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's expected.
You're not gonna argue with that?
No.
You're like, he has been, like, asleep for a while, and then he hangs out with, like, Donald, who's just obviously an idiot.
I mean, yeah, they keep trying to push this, like, this buddy like relationship with him and Donald all throughout the game, of them like cracking jokes at each other about how like, oh, that one's not like Sora because he's stupid. And it's like, God, these like the fucking zingers are so goddamn lame, and you're just like, oh, could they really have spent 13 years on this and not have thought of like better jokes or insults? Like,
dude, honestly, this makes me wonder. So Kingdom Hearts is it's the nostalgia franchise. If there's anything that's keeping this franchise alive, it's nostalgia. Let's be real. 13 years for a game, it's definitely like. That's why. And I'm really interested to find out in another 13 years if kids and just like people in general are this excited or for like the next Kingdom Hearts game. If like Kingdom Hearts 3, even though everybody says it feels like a PS2 game, if people are going to jump into this now as their first Kingdom Hearts game, especially since it's coming out on Xbox One,
right?
And then it's going to be like a nostalgia thing for them too, and it's just going to be the nostalgia game that never stops coming out. It's going to be like Final Fantasy, but not.
Yeah, I almost wish we were doing 2 reviews of this game. One from myself as a person who played it and has that nostalgia of it, and someone who has no background in Kingdom Hearts, just picks it up, because I wonder sometimes, like I've been trying to feel very like to think of this in a an unbiased way, but obviously there is that nostalgia factor. So I still, like I said, I still love the game, even though everything I'm saying, there's like a lot of like complaints, a lot of criticism on it, but it's still a great game to me. And I wonder how much that would resonate with someone who really had no involvement in the Kingdom Hearts series and just picked it up, and what they would give it as a score.
Here, I'll make a deal with you. I will review it, and I'm definitely not just going to have it say, no, Treasure Planet, this game's dog shit. I promise you that won't happen. But yeah, that'll probably happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think it's interesting. So I'm trying to stay away from reviews right now, just because I want to make it, my own review. But one of the things that I do once I'm done with it is I want to go through a lot of the reviews just to see the difference, because most people will usually say, whether they've played it or not in the series in their review. And I just want to see if there's a difference between scores, just because that kind of concept really interests me, to see where people stand from like a perspective of not having any interest in the series before this.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good thing to look out for. Is that all you've been playing this week? You just binging Kingdom Hearts?
A lot of my time has been going to that, yeah. The other thing that I've been playing, I'll hold off until the Kickstarter session, just because I have been playing Unsung Warriors, the demo that's out. But I'll talk more about that when we get to that part. I actually did a Let's Play video of it and posted it.
I was about to give that shameless plug. No big deal.
Yeah. If anyone wants to watch that, it's out there. But it was a pretty fun game, actually, at least for, where it's at in its stage, but we'll discuss it when we get into the Kickstarter. I want to see how you shit on it.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. For me, this week, I've just been playing more of what I was playing last week. I didn't play any more Phantom Trigger. I've just been really, binging Mass Effect 3, and I don't really want to harp on this for too much, because I really want to get into some of these news stories, because they're just fucking weird. And obviously, this is an Indie Games podcast, but everybody really likes to shit on Mass Effect Andromeda for how glitchy it is and how just weird it was. And the term unplayable gets thrown around a lot. I played 80 hours of that game before patches were made. You can eat my ass. It's not unplayable. And I still had a good experience. And while going back through and playing the old Mass Effect games, I was like, these games are just as bad, and nobody says anything about it. The only thing you ever hear about Mass Effect 3 is the ending, and I'm like, fuck off. There's no way that they could really tie this together. The ending was going to disappoint people no matter what. Let's be real. It's just like the Dragon Age franchise. It's like when it ends on Inquisition, the initial ending, it was very anticlimactic because it was built up over several games. Mm-hmm. It just didn't matter. I mean, it was built up technically over DLC and then another game, but still.
Right.
So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say about Mass Effect 3 is that it is just as buggy. And the other Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 are just as buggy as Andromeda. So shut your fucking mouth, okay? Be chill. I literally had a fucking cutscene the other day where Garrus was talking and he just wasn't there. He was non-existent. He was like a fucking ghost. He was just transparent.
Damn.
It was annoying as hell.
That's really weird. Yeah, I don't know. I only played the first one, and I don't know. It just didn't. The series did not stick with me for some reason. Even though that game is the type of game that I should be into, I just couldn't get into it.
Mass Effect 1 is... I'd understand why people say they can't get into it, because it is it's way heavier into the role playing of it, and it's a little weird. It's like playing Dragon Age Origins versus playing Dragon Age 2. They change a lot. I mean, I love the initials of both of these series, and I think it's somewhat of an unfair criticism to compare the first of both Dragon Age and Mass Effect to Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age 2, just because they're not the same games.
Right.
A lot of the game mechanics have changed, so both of them are way less RPG. Yeah. They change a lot in it, and then of course that carries over into the third iterations of both of these games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I understand when people say they played the first one and can't really get into it. I would always recommend people possibly pop into the second one, play a couple missions, see if you really like it, and then actually stop, go back, play through the whole first game, and then import your character from the first game to the second game. The first game can be kind of a slog at times, and there are a lot of really dumb side quests. It's definitely not a perfect game, but it really pays off. I definitely recommend it, especially if you can get all the DLC.
Yeah.
But the second one only has one DLC. Technically, it's got more, but most of it's just not. And then the third one has a bunch of DLCs.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that just because I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean?
No, what do you mean?
I mean, to start one, go to 2, and then start it again. I wouldn't want to start things over and over.
Oh no, I was saying just play 2 for like 30 minutes, see if you like it, and then go play 1. And then play 2.
I see.
Yeah, I was just saying play 2, play 1, then play 2.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, you ruined my transition I set up for you, but it's okay.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, that's so nice of you. Speaking of shitty transitions, time to move into our first news story.
Speaking of doing things over and over again.
Nah, dude. That's not my style.
All right,
so
let's go with the bad transition.
For our first news story, we are over on IGN. This written by Colin Stevens, and it is Groundhog Day. This is a thing. Groundhog Day, Like Father, Like Son announced for VR. Sony Pictures Virtual Reality has announced Groundhog Day, Like Father, Like Son, a VR game that is set 26 years after the famous Harold Ramis film starring Bill Murray. Developed by Tequila Works, the makers of Rhyme. The game features an original story that includes characters from the 1993 film and will be coming later this year to PSVR, Oculus Rift, and HTC Vive. They give you a nice little teaser trailer below. If you guys are fans of Groundhog Day, I mean, I imagine you should probably look this up. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen the movie before. Yeah. I hope people hate me for that. I've literally never seen this fucking movie.
Damn.
And yeah, I imagine this game would really hit me in the feels if I had.
If you knew
anything if I knew literally anything about it. Especially because of who you play. So the game puts players in the shoes of Phil Connors Jr., the son of Bill Murray's character from the film. I hate this name so much. It's so stupid. In Like Father, Like Son, Phil Connors Jr. is trapped back in. How would you say that name? I don't know how to say.
Punxsutawney?
Yeah, let's go with that. Punxsutawney, whatever, Pennsylvania. And just like his father, is forced to repeat the same day over and over again. And then, of course, everybody has to do their little thing where they're like, let's fucking talk about other shit. Let's talk about how we reviewed Astrobot. That's cool. I mean, I respect the shameless plug, but I'm kind of just here for this fucking Groundhog Day article, you know what I mean? So, did you watch Groundhog Day? Is it your favorite movie of all time?
I wouldn't put it on favorite movie. I really don't even care that much about the fact that it's the movie. I just think it's interesting. Well, first off, because this is so fucking old of a movie that they're doing this. Like, I really want to know, like who was the one who was like, yeah, this is what we need. A movie or a game that's in VR about Groundhog Day, but instead we'll do it from his son's perspective and put him in the same exact scenario. Like, there's so many like pieces to that like is such a strange like high idea thought kind of a thing. Like, I don't know.
Have you actually seen Groundhog Day?
Yeah, I have.
At the risk of spoiling like a 30-year-old movie, does it ever say like how he got stuck in this time loop?
God, I don't even remember, to be honest.
Is it just because it's fucking Groundhog Day? Because that's just bullshit.
I don't even fucking remember. It's been so long since I've seen it, and I saw it as a kid. I just remember, like, bits and pieces of it. So I would have to, like, if I was going to actually get into this, I would probably actually watch it again, because I don't remember shit from it.
You're like, I really have to check out the source material to understand this game.
Yeah. I mean, you really don't, though. I'm sure they'll explain it to you. They kind of did in the trailer anyway. It's just he's stuck there. I wonder why they went for VR, though. Like, it seems kind of strange. Like,
I don't know. It's the closest thing to, like, a movie experience, I guess, that you can get right now. I mean, of course, there are games like a God of War or Red Dead that really like immerse you in the game, but putting it in VR gives you that extra added bit where somebody can punch you in the dick, you know what I mean? So
I don't think they'll use that mechanic in this, but I guess that's one way you could use it.
I'm going to tell you right now, I specifically refuse to get a VR headset until I get a room where I could put a lock on the door because I'm afraid people are going to punch me in the penis. It's a real fear, Josh.
I mean,
it's real.
It could happen. It could definitely happen. I could see it. I don't know. I definitely, I don't have a VR system, so I can't play it. I would get this just to fucking see, because I'm very interested in it. I just don't have a VR system to actually do this. For anyone who does, I would recommend it just to find out what the hell is going on with this.
Yeah, I don't think it actually says anywhere in this article how much this game is actually going to like cost when it initially releases.
I don't see anything either, but I mean, this is probably something that's, whenever this does come out, I'm sure there'll be more information on that. But for VR games, I don't know. I don't even know much about VR games as far as like the pricing. Is it like the same as the $60 buy, or is it different? Like, I assume it's a lot more money to make a VR game. So,
from what I've seen with PSVR games, it just kind of depends on what you're purchasing. A lot of the games can and are cheaper. Because they're much shorter, like experiences, and they're hailed as experiences instead of games.
Right.
But I think Astrobot is like $40 or less. Beat Saber was $60, but many of the reviewers said that it was like not Beat Saber. Tetris Effect, which you can play outside of VR, but a lot of people said that like $60 is kind of a steep price for it. So I don't really know. I think it just kind of ranges. It's kind of weird. Like VR seems to be a little bit more.
I mean, it's a much different market. Like it's really unknown at this time, because like who knows where the future of VR is.
That's very true. That is very true. So now I want to move on to our next story, just speaking of futures in general. So we're going to move over to Game Informer. This is Rise to Ruins developer returning Patreon pledges, double their amount after the game is a hit. I don't know why I hate that title so much, to be honest. This is written by Suriel Vasquez. Maybe that might be how you say his name.
Yeah, Vasquez.
But yeah, I got it. I was like almost there.
You're like right there. You're like right there.
Rise to Ruins developer Raymond Doer.
I like to think of him as a doer.
Oh, there you go. Raymond Doer recently had one of those good problems, having to cancel a Patreon for a rainy day fund he no longer needs. Doer originally developed his Patreon. I mean, you don't develop a Patreon; you just start a Patreon.
He put a lot of code into that Patreon. You know what I'm saying?
Apparently, Doer originally developed his Patreon for this village managing simulator, Rise to Ruins, as a way to make sure he and his company 60 gig games. And then I hate how they do the parentheses. The little bracket says Rise to Ruins only requires 1 gigabyte of storage space. Thank you for letting me know that it is not 60 gigs. I'm so glad. Man,
the masses need to know. They wouldn't buy it otherwise. It's too many gigs.
There's got to be a decent amount of people who read this article and they're like, "Oh my god, is it 60 gigs? This is bullshit." And then just clicked off, and he's like, "No, man, you didn't even get to read my disclaimer. It's not. It's only a little bit." They were able to survive if the game didn't make didn't make back its money through sales. That ended up being a real worry as Rise to... I don't like the way this article is written. Being a real worry as Rise to Ruins had been so successful that he's canceling the Patreon campaign altogether. Rise to Ruins easily sustains my livelihood and a nice rainy day account that can keep 60 gig games running through the hard times now. So I don't feel right taking additional money from people. So then he goes, basically the guy goes on to say that he would feel bad continuing to take money from people, and he feels bad for those who may feel stiffed by him shutting down this Patreon. So he is not only going to return your Patreon pledge, but he is actually going to double it. And he just says like you gotta like reach out to him, I believe, like on Patreon. But doubled it. All you have to do is message him on Patreon with the relevant PayPal information. If that doesn't work for you, he's also offering Steam gift card codes instead. And then I hate to rag on this article. And this guy's a good writer and everything. I just hate that the hour take is one sentence, and it says, if only all Patreon campaigns were this good about how they ended. Okay. Thank you for putting that little tidbit in there. I'm so glad.
I mean, he's not wrong.
That's true, but I don't I don't really know of a lot of like Patreon campaigns to just end like out of nowhere.
That's what I was kind of thinking with this. Is I was like, well, first off, like, why do it? Maybe just lower the pledge and just like change things up. And it's also like, how much money did this guy make off this? Where he's just like, yep, I'm gonna give you double your money. Like, how many is that? Like, is he like limiting that to like the last month of people that pledged?
I mean, it
like...
says while the cancellation of Patreon campaign can be cause for concern, Doer is making sure the backers. I think it says, in fact, he's offering to not only return. Since the campaign began.
Yeah,
so any money he made on Patreon.
Like, how much did they make where he's like, yeah, or maybe there was just not a lot of people on Patreon giving him money, but like, that seems like a lot of money if you're going to double it. Like, even if you only got like a couple of $1,000s, having to double that, like, but I mean, I guess he's doing well, so good for him, but it's very strange. Like,
especially for like, I don't know why, but I just feel like it's definitely odd because if I were an indie developer, if I was Raymond, I would have taken that money and just put it toward like advancing my game or the next game. There's so many things that you could do
that you get if you were like a backer, and it's like, oh, you get it for free because you backed me, and like other people can pay for it or something like that. Like,
yeah, I don't really know. And typically the way that Patreon works is you pay in different tiers. So I mean, he wouldn't. I don't know. It's just weird. Like people choose to pay the amount that they want as a monthly subscription because they want to help you out and they want to like see you succeed. And then he's just like, "Oh, I'll just give you your money back. Hey, I'll even double it," which is really nice. Because that's, I mean, you often don't get this kind of an amazing perk out of Patreon. But also, I just feel like this money could have been used for like actually advancing his company.
Yeah.
Instead of just giving it back or actually just paying people because I don't know. It's really nice. And I hate to have this kind of cynical opinion on it, but it's weird. It's odd.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say that he's an independent developer who don't need no backer. Huh?
I'm just not going to comment on
that. Nothing? All right, fine. Oh, man, it was good. You know, it was good deep down. Deep down. No, deep down. Deep down where you don't tell anyone. All right. But yeah, no, I mean, I definitely like it. I have never even heard of this game either. So
yeah, me neither. I'm so surprised it seemingly made so much money that this guy's willing to just give up everything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is I'm just like, wow, I've never heard of this, and he's just like, yep, I've made enough money. I am good. But I wonder what he plans 60 gig games plans on doing like later. Like, what's their game plan here? Was it like, we made the game, we're good, we made money, we're done?
I mean, maybe he's just gonna Cliff Blazinski it and he's just gonna run this thing into the ground and not make games anymore. No big deal.
No,
it would chill. I didn't have to worry about it.
That would be silly. He's so nice. He gave money away.
Right? I mean, this is like such a nice guy. Why not just continue your Patreon?
I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I definitely, I hope we hear more of this guy and see like what happens later on, because I just want to know what happens to this game or like what happens to this studio as far as like what their next project is. Because like, it's one thing to be like, oh, here you go, we made money, but then if he comes right back like, you know, a year from now and is like, hey, we need money again, it's like, well, what was the point? You should have just kept it like consistent.
Yeah, why did you pay me $20 for my $10 donation when you could have taken that $10 and, you know, invested it? Nah, who likes to do that?
He's investing it in you. He's basically letting you invest it. He's like, here's $20. Go invest it and get $40 and then give it back to me when I ask again.
That makes sense, dude. I mean, really.
Pro strats.
He's got to be like... This is like banking on the kindness of others, and I definitely think this game is going to grab like a big following, if not because the game is good, just because of like this move. This is a pretty big PR move, if anything.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's one of the few, like, this is why I love indie games so much, because they're like, indie developers aren't necessarily like super in it for the money. Like when we talked to Greg Lobanov, the creator of Wondersong, which is a great game. You guys should play it. It was on my game of the year list. He had spoken about how he like made games for years and he didn't blow up. He didn't make a whole lot of money, and it wasn't about that. It's just a creative outlet, and that's what makes indie games so great. Is that most of these are just a creative outlet. They're not in this to make money. They're not in it to make loot boxes, or they're not in it for nefarious purposes, with some exceptions. It's just crazy. It's awesome. I mean, I hate to like gush over this, but it's just, I don't hate to gush over this, actually. I would kiss this guy right on the mouth if he was here. I mean, serious.
He'd give you your kiss back in double. You know what I mean?
Oh, I sure hope he would. But speaking of the futures of different products and what that developer is going to do, I want to talk about a different developer. This one's over on Twinfinite. This article written by Reese Rojo, maybe. This is Black Mesa developer shares new details on Zen chapter. XEN, I'm assuming that's Zen. Chapters in January's update. Developer Crowbar Collective is still hard at work on the final chapters of Black Mesa, the full release of the game. Today, via a blog post on Steam, we got an update on what was completed over the past month on Zen. The remaking of Zen from Valve's Half-Life is all that remains in Crowbar Collective's effort to fully reimagine the late 90s classic and to launch out of early access. So, I mean, you played Half-Life, right? You want to talk about this in any form or fashion? I mean, I've never played Half-Life. I know that makes me a fake gamer boy. No big deal. Yeah, I mean, take it away. You talk about it. I mean, of course, there is more to this article when they talk about Zen, but I don't know what any of it means. I don't understand it.
So, I mean, if you haven't played this, it's obviously not going to be like a big thing for you, but basically they're taking the original Half-Life 1 game and revamping like everything to it. So better graphics, like a little bit better feel for how the game plays out. And the reason why this is interesting is because it's been in early access for quite some time, and they're still working on things. Like they have, they're working on, they say they have the first 85% of the single player campaign completed, and they have like plans to improve upon that enjoyable and memorable experience is their direct quote. I don't know exactly what that entails, but the reason why I bring that up is just because they're
going to put loot boxes in it.
Yeah, maybe. What an enjoyable experience. The reason why I just say that is because, like, looking through all of the reviews from Steam right now and the people who have played early access, there's definitely a high positive rate on this, and a lot of the comments are that they did take to its roots and really, stay strong to what Half-Life was beforehand. I definitely think this is great just because Half-Life 3 will never come out because Valve does not care about anyone or their feelings. And it's a good way to just have, that itch that most people are, trying to scratch. And the reason why I think that's really interesting, though, is just because for a lot of people, this is all they're going to get. So it's good that the people who are making this, they're obviously big fans who love the series and want to do it justice. So it's something that I think is just very exciting. I've heard about this project and I've always been like, oh, I should pick it up because I've played the Half-Life series and I want to see, really how it feels just because of that. I haven't done so, but I'm actually considering it just because right now, one of the articles that we're going to talk about in a second about the Lunar sale, this game is actually only $8 right now on Steam, even though it's normally $20. So this is a good time now more than ever to pick this up while they're almost at the completion point of this game. That's really all I wanted to, just kind of ramble about for a little bit. Without you playing the game, there's really not much that we can kind of go back and forth on, but I definitely think that people are interested in this, this is the time to get it.
Do you wonder if the developers of this constantly tell people that they were into remakes before remakes were cool?
I mean, well, they've been working on this since 2015, so
that's way before remakes were cool, dude.
Yeah, they were kind of doing it before. It's just, it takes a while, I guess.
If I were them, I would literally like follow everybody who tweets about. I wouldn't follow them. I would just aggressively stalk them without following them, because you got to make sure they don't know you're there. But you got to follow them aggressively.
Of course.
Silently. And every time they mention the Resident Evil 2 remake, slide in and be like, just to let you know, we've been remaking this game for a while. It's cool.
I mean,
play it instead.
Yeah. Just to
it's
kind of
a great marketing campaign.
Yeah, just to kind of give like a perspective on it. There's 1,300 reviews right now on Steam for this game. And you think about the majority of people that actually write reviews in comparison to how many people play the game. So it's not like this is a small following. There's definitely a big amount of people behind this. Whereas the actual number lies, I don't know. And, once this actually releases, I'm sure it will have much more hype behind it. But I'm sure they could definitely use some more publicity on that. I'm sure that's one of the things they'll do. But if not, they could just be like, here's the closest you'll ever get to Half-Life 3. Have fun.
Well, speaking of fan remakes, I think it's about time for us to move on to our next story, since I know absolutely nothing about Half-Life. This is over on Twinfinite. It's written by Darby Hallman. It is fan-made Paragon remake. Predecessor gets a new gameplay video. Fans of Epic's games Paragon, which was shut down early last year, might soon have a reason to celebrate. Predecessor is a light remake of Paragon that uses assets from the original game, and we now have a gameplay video to lead us into the game's closed alpha in March. The video comes from one of the developers at Omeda Studios, maybe is how you say that, who is responsible for Predecessor. In the video, we see the old Paragon assets in action and get to see a variety of heroes and how their movesets work. So if you guys didn't know about all of this, Epic initially had like 2 games. I don't know if they had any like additional titles that they were working on in secret, but when Fortnite initially launched and its Battle Royale launched later on, they were actually working on a MOBA called Paragon that seemingly had kind of a weird cult following. 2 of my best friends absolutely loved Paragon. Like, I swear to God, it was a nut punch when they said that they were going to close this down. Like, they were pissed. And Epic decided to consolidate all their efforts into creating Fortnite's Battle Royale, so they ended up closing down Paragon. But the cool thing they did was they actually released all the assets in Unreal Engine, so anybody who wanted to could remake Paragon. And from what I understand from my friends that are aggressively following this, like I said, it's a good idea, guys. It's definitely not stalking. Just to clarify, I'm really just making a joke out of this. Don't stalk people. It's really fucked up. I just feel like I should say that. But they've been following the different versions of this coming out. I guess there's one called Core, which is supposedly in talks to come to PlayStation 4 when it has its alpha, similar to how Paragon was actually in alpha. And there's Predecessor. But this is pretty cool. John, the founder of Parallax Media, the place that hosts our podcast and that we write for, you guys could check it out at parallaxmedia.one. That's where you could check out all our written content and Josh's cool Let's Play. If it's featured, if it's not, check out Parallax Media on YouTube. No big deal, just the largest shameless plug in the history of time.
Anyway.
The founder, John, he is a huge fan of Paragon. So we had to talk about it.
That's true. Have you ever played Paragon?
Yeah, I played for a little bit. I really like the character Howlitzer. He was like a bunny that ran around in a mech. It was fucking cool, but I was trash at the game. I was so bad.
Yeah.
My friends, really good at it. Me, garbage. Just a garbage person.
I don't know. I actually never played it. I don't know anything about it really. So like, as far as like, I watched the gameplay thing that they were showing on the YouTube video, and I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, I have no idea. Like, is this just like a 3D MOBA? Is this like kind of like Smite?
It's your standard MOBA, but instead of something like League of Legends, where it has an isometric view from like up above, it doesn't have that kind of God's eye view. It instead is an over-the-shoulder view, similar to like a God of War's camera, but that was like a one-shot camera. It's not like that, obviously, but it's just an over-the-shoulder camera. But an additional added layer of it is it's not like how in League of Legends you like kill minions, you gain... I mean, I don't play League of Legends. I've played like twice, and my friend was a dick to me, so I decided not to play. But how you basically you gain currency and then you spend it on upgrades and you go and attack towers and such. Yep. You do basically the same thing, but the really cool thing about Paragon is that it actually had a deck building system. So you built up your deck, and that way the characters you played as were actually kind of unique to you. They were unique to your play style, so you built up this deck for basically for your main, and then you got to play him like nobody, him or her. There were a bunch of different like genders for characters and stuff. It had a bunch of really cool characters, but you got to play these characters entirely your own way. And from what I understand, at least from the two friends that I have that played it, the big difference in this one was that over-the-shoulder camera. It supposedly, what they said is they've tried out other MOBAs. They've tried out Smite. However much you want to say the Paladins might be a MOBA, it's not. It's as much like a MOBA as like Overwatch is a MOBA, but it's not because it's just a hero shooter. So. They've tried out Smite, they've tried out League. They're just not for them. But Paragon was just specifically because of its more like hyper realized art style and that over the shoulder camera instead of giving you that bird's eye view kind of a thing. So right. I mean, yeah, I enjoyed Paragon. I just wasn't as into it as like other people were. And something cool that Epic did do when they shut down Paragon, apparently you had to go through this super laborious process, which is annoying, but anybody who spent money in the game actually got refunded, so that was cool.
That's pretty nice. I don't think it's a game for me though, because I'm not really much of a card game player, so probably not something I would pick up.
Definitely not at all your cup of tea. I mean, it's not a card game, it's a MOBA, but it's got card games in it. Does that change it for you?
Oh, you're right. Maybe it is my thing. I'll have to try it out when it comes out then. But I wonder how much they're gonna stick to the roots of like the actual game, what Paragon used to be, since they say it's gonna be the same thing but a little different from what it seems. So hopefully,
they say they're gonna take like creative liberties with it. They're gonna like we will have the creative freedom to make changes to any aspect of the game to make it successful. I don't know why that sounds so ominous to me. That sounds a little weird.
I'm not sure, because I mean you run a thin line where like the Paragon community obviously is pretty big, from where it like not big in the sense of like they had a massive group, but like I feel like you can't take too far of a step away from it, because the people who are like diehard fans are going to be upset, but you also need to appeal to like a newer community, because it obviously didn't do well enough for Epic to feel like, yep, this is what we want to keep. So
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even say that you couldn't like really step far away from it, because when it initially came out, since it was an alpha, like every week each update changed it in large like significant ways. And it seemed like players just kind of rolled with the punches. Of course, there were some updates that they liked significantly less than others, and my friends constantly whined about it, but it was kind of an ever-changing game, so I don't know necessarily if people will be annoyed if it comes back and they take too many like creative liberties with it, because that's kind of what it was before.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense then. Yeah, I don't know the history of it, but I suppose if it was always changing, they might be fine with it. Because yeah, that is true. It was still in an alpha. It definitely wasn't like what it was supposed to be end result. So who knows?
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. So it's time to kind of move on to our next story. This is one you already talked about. We're over on PC Gamer. This written by Fraser Brown. Interesting name you got there. The Steam Lunar New Year's sale is live now with a twist. Celebrate the Year of the Pig with a bunch of discounts and a one-off $5 voucher for purchases over $30. So you play on PC. I do not. That's pretty much all I have to say about this. You're cool. You get $5 extra off when you spend $30.
I do.
I don't care.
I mean, this is actually pretty interesting because it kind of goes into what we were talking about a couple weeks back of like, what is Steam going to do to kind of make itself more appealing? And it plays into what I said when Epic Games is getting really great stuff like backing as far as like the developers go. But what is it really doing for the players? So, obviously a developer has to work on a platform that makes sense, but if you don't have a good audience base, you're not going to, you have to keep that balance. So this is one of those things where I think, Steam is getting, a little bit smart in the way it's trying to do things. Then again, it also could be a backstab, but we'll talk about that as I explain it. So essentially every so often they always have these sales for Steam. And it's probably one of the big things from a PC gamer perspective is that like, no one ever tries to pay full price for video games like you would on consoles, just because we have these Steam sales that are crazy incredible, where all of a sudden everything is just like 75% off, if not more, sometimes less, obviously, depending on the relevance of the game and when it came out.
Steam sales are fucking crazy.
They are. They're insane. But one of the things to note is in the past years, people have been seeing that like sometimes Steam will jack up the price, or it won't be as low as like it has been in the past, or things like that. So there is some kind of like iffiness on it. So this is one of the interesting things because they're giving you this red envelope, and every person gets a red envelope, and they get to unpack that and get a certain amount of tokens. And with these tokens, they can add additional $5 discounts or little badges or basically emoticons, the same kind of thing that if you're a usual PC Steam user, you'll notice that these are these little event things they do where they add little icons and whatnot. But this discount thing is definitely new. It's something that they haven't really done on top of already discounted games, which seems pretty crazy. And I think that's one of the things where, Steam might be trying to do this to say like, hey, even though we might not be as amazing from a developer perspective on giving you just all this crazy amount of stuff, we're still, the number one as far as players go and wanting to be on Steam, to try and appeal to them instead. Because there's obviously a market in both. But at the same time, maybe this is just Steam sales actually haven't gone down as much as they usually do, and they're just adding this as like to make it seem like it's like, oh, it's this crazy thing, but percentages aren't lower. I'd love to see some actual metrics on this, which they usually do around when these sales come out, to see like kind of the lows and highs of games and where they have been in the past, just to see if this is like a legit sale or if this sale is not as much as past years and they're just adding this on for kind of like a marketing like scheme of tricking you, so to speak. I really don't know either way. I can't say, but I think it will be interesting because I'm sure someone will do the work of looking through the statistics, since Steam does give that information.
I don't mean this to sound bad at all, but so when you're talking about Steam doing things to like kind of incentivize players to stay on their platform versus where the developers are going more toward like Epic Game Store, which apparently there's like kind of a fiasco with the whole Metro Exodus going there.
Right.
Not really going to talk about that. But are the major two things that they're doing is just the additional $5 off and that cool little red envelope?
So
or did I miss something? I did space out for like 5 seconds.
No, so it's the envelopes. It's the fact that you can keep getting those envelopes, and like as you're purchasing things, you'll get more little like points that will either give you emoticons that build the community that you have inside Steam, so you could use those on forums or different profiles, as well as this, extra discounts on there. So it's not anything like groundbreaking, don't get me wrong. This isn't like one of those things where this is an amazing leap and Steam is better because of this thing, but it is, in my eyes, one of the things that Steam still has over someone like Epic Games, is that they're doing all of these promotional things, they're doing all of this stuff that's for the actual player versus for the developer.
Do you know if this $5 stacks? I've been kind of wondering that ever since. Like, every $30 you spend, you get $5 off, or is it just the first 30?
It's the first 30, but then as you spend money, you get these red envelopes which have coins in them, which then can add to additional $5 discounts. I'm not sure how bad it is as far as like how many tokens you're going to get these coins, and how long it'll take you to actually receive that discount versus how much you have to spend. But in the grand scheme of things, most people generally will look at, the 1 or 2 or 3 games that they have had in their sites and just end up buying it during this time. So for the most part, most people are going to just end up spending only the $30 anyway. At least that's what I would assume. I'm sure there's some crazy people out there who are buying games left and right, but the average consumer is probably only going to pay about that $30 price point.
Yeah, I mean, there are a decent amount of people down in the comments of this article talking about the games that they bought. One says he bought 4 games, Divinity, Original Sin, Dragon's Dogma, Outcast, and Grim Dawn, essentially getting them for 25 euros, but let's just say that's dollars. And those are some great games. For only $25, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, it's nothing that's like groundbreaking. It's not going to be like this is the tipping point and Epic will never make its way into the industry. Obviously, that's not the case, but I do think that it does put a better perspective on Steam by having things like this.
Yeah, it gives them kind of a better light, whereas in the past, in news cycles, Steam has been kind of shit on recently.
Yeah, exactly.
With the exception of some people saying that like Steam has a bunch of features that the Epic Game Store doesn't have, but then of course there's the rebuttal that Steam has also existed for a lot longer than Epic has, so they don't have that existing infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not a big win, but it is kind of a small win in that sense.
That's very true. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Steam, but I hope they continue to do stuff like this. I love their sales. I love beefing up my backlog on a machine that I almost never play. It's really fun. But I think it's...
Yeah,
what?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to move into News Cram unless you had something interesting to say.
No, we can cram. I'm down for some cramming.
All right, so it's time to move into News Cram. Feel free to take it away, Josh.
Oh, why thank you. Cram.
There you go, guys. You got it. You got your cram fix.
You got your weekly cramming.
Ugh, yeah, you got crammed, dude. You just got filled, you know what I mean? All right, so it's time. So News Cram is the part of the podcast where we just quickly run through some of the indie games news because, of course, we don't necessarily... we're not fucking Superman. I'm not exceptionally intelligent and or funny and charismatic. I can't talk about every news story. I could just make fun of Josh while he talks about Black Mesa. That's all I could do, guys. For our first news story, this is over on Twinfinite. It is Fortnite's voice chat software on Switch is now available for all third-party developers. Our second news story is over on Gomatsu. This is Daedalic Entertainment to announce 6 new titles in the coming weeks. Then we've got Gamatsu again. Bubsy Paws on Fire launches in April. DLC Kickstarter campaign launches February 5th.
Ooh.
Yeah, Arrow was really excited about this. Suck it, Arrow. Aren't on the podcast.
One of the things that was listed in this for the DLC was like more Bubsy chatter. And I was like, good God, why would I want that?
I hate it when people say this, but it does make me wonder, Who asked for this? Who's wanting to play more Bubsy, dude?
I don't know.
I don't know a single person other than Daryl.
Probably Donkey.
And, well, there you go. All right. So the news story after that is over on Twinfinite. It is Dear Esther, Downwell, and more are free with Twitch Prime members through February. Next, we're over on Twinfinite. Wargroove breaks even after just 3 days. A developer outlines post-launch plans. And for our last news Cram story, it is over on Gomatsu. This is Soedesco to publish dark monster breeding and taming game Monster Crown. I'm just going to say right now, Errol, I hope you got far enough into this podcast. Suck it. We're not going to talk about Monster Crown any more than I just did.
That's what you get for not being on the podcast.
Yeah, go watch freaking Dragon Ball Z again, bro. It's time to not talk about the game that you're so excited about.
Don't know shit about Monster Crown.
I mean, it's a monster tamer, as much as the title tells us.
I know.
So
I read that like when I was first looking over the title of this news story. I don't know why my brain just didn't piece together the words, and I was like, I have no idea what this sentence is trying to I understand all the words, but none of them were making sense at first.
I totally understand what you mean. It's because it's written weird. They publish dark monster breeding and taming game. It's like, okay, I get it. It's a monster tamer. Why did they have to add the dark in there? Aren't all monster tamers dark? Pokemon is about like fucking animal cruelty. Let's be real. Monster tamers are fucked up. Errol's a sick individual for loving them so much. Jeez.
Agreed. You hear that, Errol?
But I will say, Soedesco, great publisher. I really like them. They make a lot of physical indie games. It's pretty cool, guys. Pretty cool. Time to move on to our next segment of the podcast. This is God Bless the Crowd. This is where Josh, specifically, basically always, goes into different crowdfunding websites, picks out some indie games on these crowdfunding websites, and we talk about them. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm going to shit on them because I don't know, but you never know where the river takes you. You know what I mean? It's like you just go with it. So we're on Kickstarter for both of these. We've got Ada and Unsung Warriors. I want to start out with Ada, and then you can gush on Unsung Warriors and possibly shameless plug again. No big deal. Just get two in there.
Sounds like a good way to live.
So Ada is an action RPG set in a dreamlike world. Slash your way through dozens of enemies while exploring dreamlike world of Ada. I really hate the way they said that. Slash your way through dozens of enemies while exploring dreamlike world of Ada. What? I think they're missing a word there. Isn't it the dreamlike world of Ada? Or is it just exploring dreamlike world?
They're from Poland. Maybe it's just a bad translation.
That's very true. It is very possible. So Ada is currently sitting at 28 days left to go. They have 215 backers as of recording on this podcast, and they have $6,196 out of their goal of $25,915. Ada looks kind of cool. I've actually been following this game on Twitter for quite some time. It looks really interesting. The first thing I'll say is Kickstarter, you can eat my ass with your shitty media player. I'm getting real sick of it, dude. I really hate it. That's where I needed to start off. Feel free to take it away with your opinions on this cool-looking game.
Good point. Good point about the game. Good point. All right, so I'll continue us off. So the one thing that I noticed right away from this game and why I was like interested in it is the art style to it is really cool. Like it looks like a very strange like painting-esque, like all of the entire world basically looks like it's a painting over and over again, if that makes any sense. But the actual art style to it is just very fluid in the way that you're moving. It reminds me of kind of like a weird, like, and I hate using this term, but kind of like a Dark Souls from the movement perspective of your character in the game. But the entire world is so lush and looks so interesting from like the exploration side to things. Just even in that trailer, there was a number of places that they went to and a number of different enemies that showed up. Like that one crazy freaking bear. But it definitely looks like something that that would be like an interesting world just to explore, as far as like not even the gameplay perspective of it. But it definitely seems like there's much more to it. I don't know, just from watching the couple of parts to it, how much will really be in it as far as like the different things that you can do. Just because it doesn't look like you have any weapons other than the alchemy part of like throwing potions, I guess it is. And then it kind of just looks like a roll, dodge, slash kind of a game. So I don't know realistically from the longevity of how long it will, hold interest. But that's one of the areas where the world kind of does it justice, is you'll want to explore the different areas.
Yeah, I think the world itself looks really cool and everything. The combat system, it seems a little bit odd at this point in time, just because like they talk about those different skills and abilities that you'll get and you can improve. But then it seems like in the majority of the gameplay, all we really see is like maybe 2 or 3 abilities, and then
exactly.
like the alchemy. So it's like, okay, I would recommend anybody who puts their stuff on Kickstarter really feel free to get in depth, and also do not name your character. It's a really dumb name. Let me scroll up so I can fucking find it, because I'm really annoyed about it, if I'm being honest. It says character, face all challenges to come as not so brave Tomb Raider. Fuck off. Just name your character. Like, just... I hate that so much.
Tomb Raider,
but there's a lot of really
later.
cool stuff about this. Apparently they're just gonna add it in right before the game comes out.
Yeah,
no big deal.
Maybe the highest pledge is to name the character.
I do not think it is.
No, it's not. But I just wanted to enrage you a little bit.
Oh, trust me, I'm definitely gonna talk about somebody bragging here in a second. There are some cool skills and abilities though. There's one that's like seems kind of cataclysmic, and it takes a little bit to like charge up. I think this game looks really, really cool, and I think the starting one where you can actually get the game. Yeah, digital copy of the game is $14 US. That's not bad at all, considering you also it's $14, but you also get the digital copy of the game, you get your name in the credits, and you get the digital wallpaper. I will like to point out, just for future reference, $5 here gets your name in the credits. That'll come back later. That's foreshadowing, guys. Get ready to hear me get annoyed about it. But yeah, I think this game looks awesome. The crafting system looks really cool when it comes to like alchemy and stuff. Yeah, you're right. The like gameplay mechanics seems very kind of Souls-like, which I'm pretty sure you said this, but I also really don't like saying that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a weird way to describe games now. But the world is just so interesting. It's got like these colossal creatures, but also like just like a weird painter, and these like I don't know, the world is just so weird.
Yeah.
And I want to know what's happening. There's like flying islands and stuff like that. This game looks really cool, and I love games that are based in just like weird ass fantasy. Like this game at the moment does not seem to make any sense, and that is really appealing to me.
Yeah, I think that the way that like to describe it is almost like if you took Zelda and you basically took away Link's sword, and then you made the world basically
really gross,
all of it gross and painted, you would have this game.
That's very true. Yeah, this game is really fucking gross looking. So like 90% of it looks disgusting.
Yeah. But I think it's definitely something, if like you're into this style of, the more heavy feeling games of like the explorer action type, it definitely looks like it's going to be an interesting game. And like you said, it's only $14. It's not that much to pick up and get the digital copy. And they have plenty of days left to actually make that goal. They're, on their way. So best of luck to them, really.
Yeah. I think it's about time to move on to Unsung Warriors. So I'm going to let you give your opinions on the gameplay, the demo you've done, and then I'm just going to tear into it.
Gonna shit all over it?
Yeah.
So Unsung Warriors, so the best way to describe it, for me anyway, like when I was playing it, is it's basically like a 2D style Castle Crashers. It reminds me a lot of that type of gameplay. It has the same element of like jumping in the air and using your melee attack and kind of having that floating feeling while you're attacking. But it's essentially you're like these two barbarians, depending on if you're playing with a friend, because it's a couch co-op game, which is upsetting that it's only local co-op, but that's fine. But basically these barbarians back in Iron Age Europe, so I think it was 300 BC is when it said the actual timeline. And you're for this part, the reason why I chose this as one of the things that I was going to talk about for the Let's Play and for this actual demo is because I found this not through Kickstarter originally. I actually found it through Steam because it was one of the recent release games that came out. And I was like, oh, what is this? Like, it's like a free-to-play game, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually the demo, and the way it's marketed is it's called Unsung Warriors Prologue. And it's basically the game starting before what will be the actual content to the game. So it's, it's a prologue. It's the background story of where it started.
Prologue.
And really for it, there's not much to the story. I mean, it's basically an evil wizard comes to town and basically tells them, hey, there's treasure in a dungeon, and a bunch of people die. And so you go and you're basically running to help someone who is outside there and said that their brother was trapped. You help them, and then you find out that that evil guy talks to you and basically says that more will die or something. It doesn't really matter. The story, I wasn't that crazy into it, but the gameplay was really nice. It definitely feels a little clunky at the stage of this game, but this is, keep in mind, just really a demo and them still trying to actually kickstart this game and crowdfund it. But it essentially has, you're starting off with a sword, a shield, and a bow and arrow. And you can block enemies' attacks, you can dash through them, you can attack them with the sword and the bow and arrow. And at first I was like, oh, this is okay. But then you start to get farther into the game and you have a weapon shop where you'll actually be able to buy all of these different types of weapons. There was things like being able to use lightning bolts instead of your bow and arrow, being able to use heavier weapons rather than just a sword. And I'm assuming eventually you'll get to different shields throughout the game. But it had a nice variation of different styles of gameplay, so it wasn't just, run through and kind of hack and slash. But it also had parts where you were doing, the normal platforming aspects of like trying to make sure you don't fall, where there's like fireball shooting, there's things that are going to squish you, and all of the elements you can play into fighting those enemies. So there was one part where I actually cracked up just because I didn't expect it, but I smacked one of the skeletons into an area where there was a thing that was coming down and crushing them. And the skeleton actually has the animation of him screaming right before he gets crushed. And I thought it was like super funny just because I wasn't like, it was very shocking because I didn't expect it at all. But then they also have parts from platforming where you actually had to one of those scrolling chase scenarios where the temple was basically breaking and I had to run from things that were falling towards me and falling above me and basically get out of the cavern. So I like the variation and different elements that they're trying to put into this game. So it definitely has a lot of potential, so to speak. But now, with all that said, let's hear why you're going to shit on it.
So just a little bit of background on this. It has 12 days to go in its campaign, and it currently has $11,102 pledged toward it with 277 backers, and their goal is actually 34,204. I mean, there's not really like a whole lot of reason to shit on this. It's just mostly so at £5, I'm assuming, or $6. The first thing that you could do is you get honored in the prologue's cavern. Like you basically get honored in the demo with your name in the demo, and it's like, that's cool, but they kind of like, I don't know, I hate that that's a tier. It's like, oh, you get honored in the demo, and they act like that's like kind of a cool thing. I mean, it is, but also though it isn't. Especially because at $14, 12 quid, you get the digital copy of the game, which again, pretty low bar of entry, $14 for a game, definitely not bad. But then later on at 25 quid or $29, the 25 tributes, you get beta test access. And this is where you actually get your name in the final game. Like, that's a little weird, especially because they like kind of bragged a little bit with the like $6 thing where they're like, oh yeah, normally you have to wait till the game comes out to get your name in it. And it's like, okay, yeah, but also your name's not going to be in the game. It's going to be in the demo. It's going to be in the prologue, whereas like for $5, Ada has just your name in the fucking credits of the game. Like it's not in the demo or the prologue of the game. It's literally just in the game. So I don't know. It's just me being nitpicky, but I just found that like it really just odd that they advertise that. Like I honestly would never mind. I was about to say I'd honestly rather have the like thanks, but I wouldn't do that. So I appreciate that they did not do that.
I mean,
but then the other thing that I have like issue with is the massive leaps in money that you have to pay for what you get additionally in the next tiers. Yeah. So like for $29, you get the beta access, your name in the final credits of the game, the digital copy of the game, and you get your name in the Caverns prologue. And then it hops to $57, where the only thing that changes is you get a digital art book. And it's like, that's a big leap to just get a digital art book, which I shouldn't like criticize this that much, because I feel like most of games come with something like that. Like it's not necessarily, I feel like, as big of a leap, but it's still like, I mean, it's a leap. Let's be real. But it's not normally like over $20 kind of a thing. Or I guess it's not over $20. It's, no, it is. Yeah, $20. Yeah, $49. It's over $20. It took me a second. Got to do math. And then the next leap gives you like a printed copy of the art book, but that's for like an additional $50. And that is just crazy to me that they basically just tack on like one additional thing for each tier, but they basically double or even triple the amount of money that you have to pay. Like this is just, I mean, I'm not even like going to say anything about the game being bad, because the game actually looks really cool. It's like a 2D action adventure. You can play, like you said, co-op. The combat looks fun. And just the world altogether looks really polished and interesting. And I would actually play this game. But for me, I don't know if I would ever actually give to this Kickstarter like campaign, just because of like the stuff that they give you and the amount of money between each section is a lot.
Yeah.
Like, they're not giving you very much like between sections for it to increase like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
That's a definite point. To be honest, I didn't really even look into it much, especially from my perspective. When I see a Kickstarter, I'm generally never going to be the person that puts in that much money to a game, because usually I have no investment in it and I don't care as much. And I'm also just not that interested in a lot of the physical or, like the build your own kind of initiatives in Kickstarter goals. So I didn't even really think about the difference between the goals. But yeah, that is a fair point. I mean, you could definitely see it in the amount of backers at where they're at. But they still have a couple of people who are backing those higher tiers, which is interesting. So it's not like stopping anyone per se, but there might be people who are more willing to.
There's one person actually did their highest tier, which is almost like it's not $2,000. It's in US it's $1,653.
Yeah,
that's a shitload.
I mean, that's a lot of money. Yeah, so they really enjoy it. It is kind of a shame though, because like looking at it, I mean it could still be done. Like it's definitely not over, because there's still 12 days to go, but they have quite a long trek, because they still have about $20,000 so odd dollars to get through, and they're not even at that point yet. But this seems like, especially playing the demo, this seems like one of those games where even if it doesn't get crowdfunded, this game is still going to come out. It's just it won't be anywhere near as good as it could be if it does get crowdfunded.
That's very true. That makes sense. I mean, this game looks really good. The only things that I needed to talk shit about for those different tiers. And also the fact that several of the tiers, I have to pay $114, and my printed copy of the art book only ships to certain countries. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of tough.
I'm paying you $114 fucking dollars for basically an art book and a game.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I mean, I don't know. That's just the world we live in, you know?
I guess. I mean, that makes sense. But yeah, both of these games look really interesting. I'm very excited for both of them. I hope they both get funded, even though I really hate the backer tiers for Unsung Warriors. But I hope they do because they look really cool. And, of course, I want to make sure, I want all indie developers to succeed because like I gushed before, I really enjoy them. They're really cool. You guys should check out some indie games. But now I think it's actually time to move on to one of our last segments of the podcast. And this one is the most exhausting section of the podcast. This is the indie games release schedule. Yeah, you just get to sit back and make fun of me for pronouncing words wrong.
Yeah,
it's
let's
pretty
see
fun.
how many fries days we get.
I haven't done that in a while, thank you very much. I feel pretty good about that.
Happens. There's only 3 Fridays in here, so you don't have that much chance to fuck up, but we'll see.
Maybe that's why I haven't done it in a while. Maybe just the amount of games that are coming out on Friday are narrowed down, or maybe it's because this is not a complete list of games coming out, and maybe I'm just casually leaving out the ones that come out on Fridays.
Probably.
I'm not. Just to let everybody know, I'm not doing that. That'd be fucked up. I'm not doing that. It's actually kind of hard to find indie games that are coming out. I have to go to like 5 different lists to put together just one list of just indie games. It's kind of weird. But these are the games coming out between February 3rd and the 9th. And I will let you guys know the platforms and days that each one of these are coming out. So for our first section of this, we've got our multiple section. This is, we've got 2 games in it. We've got The Occupation, comes to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Windows PC Tuesday, February 5th. And we've got Ape Out, comes to Windows PC and the Nintendo Switch Thursday, February 7th. Now moving on to PlayStation 4, we've got Rage Room coming to PlayStation 4 Monday, February 4th. Away, Journey to the Unexpected, which we've actually talked about on the podcast before. It looks really cool. Is coming to PlayStation 4 Tuesday, February 5th. And the last title coming to PlayStation 4 is The Hong Kong Massacre. Comes to PlayStation 4 Tuesday, February 5th. Which I would like to say, last week's podcast, we actually talked about how Hong Kong Massacre was released, like its release date in the United States was delayed on PS4.
Yep.
Didn't they say it was going to come out by the 31st?
Yeah.
And then it came out 5 days later?
Tisk. That one guy must be so pissed.
Yeah, dude. He's like, you fucking assholes. You even said it was going to come out on the 31st. Fuck that Jason T guy, dude. That guy can wait. Turns out that they actually gave it to everybody else before. Yeah. This is the Jason T release date on PS4. I see what they're doing. Now moving on to Xbox One, we've got 39 Days to Mars comes to Xbox One Wednesday, February 6th. Riot Civil Unrest comes to Xbox One Wednesday, February 6th. Away, Journey to the Unexpected comes to Xbox One Friday, February 8th. And Pipe Push Paradise comes to Xbox One Friday, February 8th. Sadly, we do not have any Vita titles this week, or at least they weren't included on this list because I couldn't find them. So. Yeah, if your game came out on Vita this week, hit me up at High Legion on Twitter, and I will say something about it next week, I guess.
Perfect.
Now moving on to the Switch games, we've got Magic Nations comes to Switch Monday, February 4th. Avenger Bird comes to Switch Tuesday, February 5th. Riot Civil Unrest comes to Switch Tuesday, February 5th. Path of the Motus comes to Switch Tuesday, February 5th. Away, Journey to the Unexpected comes to Switch Thursday, February 7th. Defense Grid 2 comes to Switch Thursday, February 7th. Evoland Legendary Edition comes to Switch Thursday, February 7th. Evoland comes to PlayStation 4 this week as well. I kind of forgot to snatch the date, but I'm fairly certain you can, when this posts, you could probably just go check that out on the PlayStation Store, and you could probably pick it up, so. Just a little disclaimer. Observer comes to Switch Thursday, February 7th. Reverie Sweet Ass Edition. Not Sweet Ass Edition. Don't worry, guys. They censored it. The Sweet Ass Edition comes to Switch Thursday, February 2nd. 7th. I messed up in some tiny way again. I've heard Reverie is actually really good. I want to check it out. It reminds me of a lot of Earthbound, but not combat-wise, because it's like an action RPG, which is pretty interesting. Access Denied comes to Switch Friday, February 8th, and City of Brass comes to Switch Friday, February 8th. Now for the 3 titles that I have on here coming to Windows PC. We've got Battle Motion comes to Windows PC Monday, February 4th. Kadath, 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 I guess, comes to Windows PC Tuesday, February 5th, and Plane Mechanic Simulator comes to Windows PC Thursday, February 7th. So now at this part of the podcast, we pop in and we pick out a title that we want to talk about a little bit. Did you pick one out? Are you going to talk about 69 Days to Summer?
No, not quite. But 2 things before I give you my pick. The first one is congrats on not screwing up Fries Day.
Boom, dude.
And I know, I'm so proud of you.
You should be. It's really hard to do.
So proud. And the second thing is that Evoland is actually coming to the PC on February 7th as well.
There you go.
And it is already out for PlayStation 4. It was released on February 5th, so yesterday.
Sweet. Knew I saw it at some point in time.
Yeah, it's out there. And as a great transition, it also happens to be my pick for this week. So Evoland, I don't know if you remember, but we actually talked about this way back in one of the episodes early on into the podcast. I didn't remember the name to it, though. And I was like, going crazy because I was like, it's this one game where you go through all the different art styles and the different genres of a game all in one, and it's really cool. And so basically this is a combination of both Evoland 1 and 2. So there were 2 games that were technically made, and this is just like a collection pack of it. Looking through, I've looked at both the Steam page and the PS4, their PlayStation Store page for this game. I don't see anything specifically different that they've done, like, anything that they've tacked on that's added in addition to buying 1 and 2. But I believe this is the first time you can get this game in other areas other than Steam. So if this is one of those things where, like, for me, I already have 1 and 2 on PC, so I'm probably not going to actually get it. But I definitely recommend it to people because it is a very... it's not like anything that's just amazing that you're going to be like, this is like, we've never seen anything that could do something like this. But it is really cool the way they blend the different art styles. They go through kind of like a progression of time traveling to basically state that you're changing into the different bits. So like you go from 8-bit to 16-bit, and then it changes more into changing the genres and things like that. Which it flows very well, and it has a good sense of humor in a lot of the games. In Evoland 2, there definitely was some issues in my eyes with some of the games. One of the things is if you're doing so many things at once, you generally don't do it as well as you could if you were just focusing on one genre. But it's a really interesting take on kind of an homage to games in general. And I definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't played either one of the series.
I think it's kind of weird and coincidental. I'm assuming it's a coincidence. But Evoland, how it kind of runs through the different like time periods of video games and what games were like then. I think like maybe a month ago or maybe less than that, Super Life of Pixel came out, and we actually talked about that as well because it was one of your picks, I believe.
Yep.
And how it also ran through like a bunch of different, not only the game systems but the game eras based on graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that people are doing this because this is kind of a way like people like me who possibly like got into gaming when they were in their teens instead of being really young, or people just that are like young now. They never got the chance to play these like consoles and never got the chance to experience kind of what games were like back then. And games like Evoland and Super Life of Pixel now are kind of a more modern take on that. It's like, hey, we might not have we up the gameplay mechanics so they're not as annoying. You're not gonna have like tank controls or whatever. But you get to actually experience the art styles and some of the play styles of these games. So I think that's really cool. But the game I wanted to talk about was actually just Hong Kong Massacre. I think it looks really, really cool. It is like, it's basically Hotline Miami, but if you were instead like in fucking Hong Kong and it's super brutal and just tearing people apart. It's instead of being like kind of the pixelated adventure, it's much more realistic, much more bloody. It looks real. Well, actually, I don't think it's much more bloody because Hotline Miami's super bloody. It's pretty intense. Hong Kong Massacre looks really good, and that Jason T guy can fuck off. I'm just gonna continue saying that. That guy's a douche on Twitter. He's just being a bum. But yeah, I think Hong Kong Massacre looks awesome. I'm super excited that it came to PlayStation 4. I've played a decent amount of Hotline Miami 1 and 2, and I really enjoyed both of them. So I'm excited to hop into another game, this one being a little bit more realistic. So yeah, that's mostly what I want to talk about. Ape Out also looks really cool, and it's kind of like in a similar vein, but instead you actually play as an ape escaping a testing facility, and you kind of just like beat the shit out of people. It looks really cool. I'm actually very excited about that one as well, and might actually pick it up on the Nintendo Switch. So we're about to wrap up the podcast, so what I like to do now is I like to make my co-stars, or not really co-stars, because we are not stars of any kind, but
co-people.
Yeah, my co-podcasters, my co-hosts, as some might say. I like to make them feel exceptionally uncomfortable by asking them super probing questions. Are you ready, Josh?
I mean, we generally end now with something about my genitalia, so let's get it going.
Oh, trust me, the fact that you gave me the go-ahead to talk about your balls has definitely inspired today's question.
Oh,
I want to know
Jesus.
if you, in your adult life, have ever pooped your pants. Now, don't think that this is a way that I'm just getting at you. This is actually because somehow this is more frequent than I had ever imagined, and it blows my fucking mind. I know several people who have deuced their pants in their adult lives, and it blows my mind. I was listening to a podcast the other day where this question came up, and the guy was like, it was like if he had ever peed his pants. It is not back in Colin Moriarty's podcast Knockback, where he does it with his brother Dagan. But his brother Dagan asks him, he was like, have you ever peed your pants? He's like, no, but I have shit my pants. And he tells this crazy story about how like he and a couple of other people went out to dinner, and like on their way back home, he like went into he really had to like poop, so he went into the store and tried to go poop, and the guy was like, nah dude, I can't let you use the bathroom here. And supposedly that 15 seconds is what kind of doomed him that he spent in that store, because then he tries to run home, and like 15 seconds before he got to the toilet he pooped his pants. So I want to know,
Damn.
have you ever deuced your pants as an adult?
As an adult, unfortunately, no. I do not have a good story for you about me pooping
Damn
my
it.
pants.
I really wanted to make fun of you.
No, not quite. I mean, yeah, no. There's never been a moment where there's been moments where I've been close, where I'm like, oh man, if I don't get to a bathroom soon, it'll happen. But I've controlled myself so far.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, have you ever seen the movie Along Came Polly?
Yeah.
That was the first time I was ever introduced to sharding. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then when I was in high school, there were people who, like myself included, you would cut your jeans to look like kind of jean shorts.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of weird, and somebody called them shants. And I was like, that sounds a little odd. And then one of my friends pointed out it's because on Urban Dictionary, the definition for shants is just a way to show you shit your pants. And I was like, damn, you got me, dude. I thought it was short pants, but it's actually you shit your pants.
Damn, I've never heard of that. Yeah, I was thinking short pants.
Exactly, right? It just makes sense. I mean, sharding. I will tell you right now, there's somebody very close to me, and I'm not going to say who it is. Person shards all the time. It blows my mind. Like, it happens quite often. It's a little weird. I started to think that this person may or may not have, like, some health issues that they need to get checked out, but we'll worry about that later. I really wish Arrow was on the podcast so I can make him feel uncomfortable and hear if he had ever shit his pants before.
Yeah.
As an adult.
And if we ever ask him, he's going to just ghost us on it. I bet he's done it. He's definitely pooped
right.
his
He's going to
pants.
be like, oh man, I've lost connection. And he's just like exits the phone call.
Something like that.
Sorry, guys. My internet was really bad. Another plane flew up ahead. I'm sorry. He pieces out. He's like, you'll never know if I've shit my pants.
Yeah, I mean, most people probably would not say it anyway.
That's a good point. I mean, we may not have a large audience for this podcast, but whatever audience we have now knows.
It's true.
Josh has not shit his pants.
It's true.
In his adult life.
I'm
And I'm going to tell you right now, neither have I. I'm
See?
also very proud of
There
it.
you go. For the audience base we do have, if you have shit your pants, just add us on Twitter and let us know so we can, just know who out there has shit their pants.
Just on a public forum, just let us know
Let us know.
if you've deuced yourself in your adult life. It would be very nice to know.
So the people need to know.
That's fair. Well, that's about the end of this podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, make sure to leave us a review, I guess, on any of the podcast services that this is currently on. I promise I will eventually get off my lazy ass and actually get it on additional podcast services as well. If you are not listening on a podcast service, I'm assuming you're listening over on YouTube, which then feel free to put in the comments down below if you have shit your pants in your adult life. I'd really like to know. We post this Indie Games podcast each and every Friday. It's super easy to find. We are the Indie Incursion Podcast. We made this podcast to talk about indie games and their developers. We've talked to several developers, and I'm going to be honest, I really enjoy this podcast. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it kind of special because it seems like nobody else ever talks about indie games.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'd rather just have an entire podcast where we talk about indie games and shitting our pants. It'll be great.
Yeah, that was definitely the initial plan going in.
Yeah, dude, it just took us 17 episodes to finally get to the second hidden topic of this podcast.
Well, we had to hold back a little bit. You have to reel them in and then hit them with the poop pants jokes.
Dude, that's fair. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you guys would like to follow me outside of the podcast, you can follow me at Hyde Legion on Twitter. Super easy to find. It is at HYDELEGION. And you can find Josh at _Josh90. Super easy to find us both, and we're both pretty accessible. Feel free to tweet at us if you have and how bad it was when you shit your pants. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week.
Bye, guys.
I really want people to tell me if they shit their pants.